Hello and welcome back to the Stitchwitch podcast. It's been a really long time since I have sat down, actually in general, I think it's been 3 weeks since I have sat down to film for you guys. We are doing a regular bog standard podcast. I have been up to so many different things, so I am very, very enthusiastic to be bringing you a long-awaited update. So if you want to know what I've been up to in terms of yarny things, fiber goodness, creative crafts, please keep on watching. Let's jump into it. Okay, I am frazzled and out of breath. So if you notice a little bit of fatigue, and if I feel a little bit more low energy than usual, it's because I have been running myself ragged. Honestly, I'm just on a really tight schedule. I'm going to be traveling in 2 weeks and then traveling again after that. And so I'm trying to like front load a lot of the stuff that is, well, not even trying to. A lot of stuff actually ended up being scheduled for right now. And then on top of it, there's travel. I'm also like going back and forth because other people are traveling. And so I have just let go of my regular podcasting schedule. And I'm sorry that it's been so long since my last update, but it might just be just as well because besides the knitting, there's been other stuff. And so we can kind of split the difference and keep things relatively short and sweet in quotation marks, because nothing will ever be short and sweet, but in terms of the knitting, there's just a few things that I wanted to share with you guys. But before I actually get into any of that, this is the first video after Ali has released hers on videos to watch if you are tired of the traditional podcast episode. And I have to say, it like blew my socks off to see myself being shouted out in that video. One, because it was a list of 10, just 10, content creators out there, and she chose me to be one of the creators. And I know there's quite a few of you guys who have joined and given me a chance, and I feel bad that I didn't upload anything last week because I've just been busy with my hands full. And if you have come from Ali's video, say hi. Some of you have already said hi, and I've been so enthusiastic about it, but thank you so much for giving my podcast a chance. It was incredibly generous of her to do so and shout me out, and I hope I can do you guys justice and continue to provide that interesting creativity commentary that she says that I am an overthinker and good at conveying. So, it's an honor to hear that. And if you are interested, I was thinking of putting together a video of my own recommendations of, my favorite fiber arts related content creators that are wonderful for a myriad of reasons, whether it's, their style or their creative vision, whether they are educational or whatever. I have a plethora of recommendations as well. So if you would like that video, please go ahead and let me know, because I am very, very happy to put that together and kind of pay it forward because, I think I've seen quite a little bit of discourse, not just on YouTube, but on threads and on Instagram that, it's just some people are feeling tired and saying the same thing over and over again. And I just personally don't agree, because I have developed a kind of feed an ecosystem that is perfectly curated for my creative interests and my favorite flavors of people, and it will always be fascinating to me. So if anyone is in need of recommendations or just some freshness, then do let me know. I'm happy to pass that along. Besides that, I think the rest of the announcements and stuff will come with the rest of the pieces. So let's actually just talk about the work itself. Okay, so when it comes to finished objects, usually we come here and we talk about our knitted objects and everything, but in the last month or so, I would say that I have been furiously working on a secret project, and I am really excited to announce that I have been accepted into a retail store. So I will be actually doing dyeing for a store, which is very exciting, very enthusiastic about that. But unfortunately, I will not be there for the grand opening of the store, which makes me really sad, because I was hoping for it to be just a fun event to record and to showcase and to kind of make this whole fanfare thing for the YouTube channel and everything, and it would just be a really exciting new chapter to be able to get into. But due to logistical concerns, it seems like that kind of thing is not going to be possible, because I will be traveling during that time. So it will be more hands-off and more chill for me, which I guess will be good, but I'm going to lose out on probably a really good press opportunity and, just the opportunity to be there for the, birth of this project, which is a bummer. And, there's not much we can do about it, just because timing and everything makes the logistics the way that it is. But this is to say that most of my finished objects in the last month has been dyed yarn. I'm not going to show all my dyed yarn here. I'm just going to show the stuff that's pertinent, like as I'm working on it, if I'm working on it. But I do have a finished object from the past, which is a dyed vest. So this is my Nordic Bloom vest. It is now a very different color than it used to be. So historically, this was a light spring green and pink vest. And I made it because I was really fascinated by the idea of making a strawberry matcha themed garment, and like the idea of it is still wonderful. And I bought this really beautiful, expensive yarn because it was the perfect color of matcha, like really, really high grade matcha or whatever. And I still love that as an artistic concept, but for me and my wardrobe, it just like wasn't really doing me any favors. And I didn't like the way that I looked in it. And I wasn't wearing it just because the color was not right for me. And when I was working on my yarns, there was one batch where I had a leftover like batch of blue because I was over dyeing something else. And I figured I would dip this in and tint it with the shade of blue that I like. And so it shifted my green vest into a cooler green vest. And you can still see that it's now a lower contrast design, which is not my usual shtick, but you can definitely still see that it is flowers, which is really cute. This is a plant-based yarn, so it's alpaca and cotton, I believe, the contrast color that we're looking at. And so you can see some of that white is still peeking through, and it looks very organic. I actually really like that it's not super flat, and even, I mean, dare I say, a little bit patchy, because it is harder to over dye than it is to dye yarn. But the buttons completely stayed, you know, uninterrupted, untouched, you know, just plastic or whatever. And then I had a different shade of pink on the bottom for my contrast trim, and that kind of basically all but went away. All that stupid extra work I did to do the contrast trim in 2 different shades of pink or whatever. But ultimately, I'm already so much happier with this color because this is a color that I would wear a lot more than the bright, warm, yellowish matcha green. You know, being someone as picky with undertones as I am, I cannot begin to tell you how wonderful it's been to like have dyes at my disposal, because I really get to dial things in a way that I can only imagine gets better and better with time. Because as it is now, I'm like such a noob, and it's already been life-changing to be able to like alter colors to be exactly the way I want them. Because this color was like much more yellow before, you know, not in my season, cute for what it was, but I just really wasn't wearing it. And now that I've overdyed it, I've already worn it probably more times in the last couple weeks than I had ever worn this vest since finishing it earlier this year. So very pleased with this overdying experience. That was positive. Next I have some hand spun, which I finished up for Tour de Fleece. I did a commission for a lovely viewer of mine, and we came up with these beautiful, beautiful skeins of yarn. I had mentioned that I wanted to spin BFL, and I had said, hey, if anyone wants to sponsor some BFL for Tour de Fleece, let me know. And I did. This is, I think, actually 2 6-ounce braids and 1 8-ounce braid, or like 2 6-ounce braid and 1 4-ounce braid. I can't remember, but it's a decent amount of yarn. It's a big ol', these are big ol' hanks. I did a fractal spin for these, and I was really, really pleased with the result. I mean, I had gone out onto my channel and said, like, if you guys want to sponsor me to make a fractal yarn, do let me know, because I can do so. And I got a biter immediately, and we talked about some of our options. We reviewed some yarn choices, which included, you know, like a grayish with a slight green tint braid, and then a purplish green swampy braid, and I think it came out absolutely beautifully. I wish I could keep her. This is probably my favorite spin of all time. It just came out so nice and so even, and the BFL just felt so wonderful on the skin and like on the hands to actually spin up. Up until now, I've been doing a lot of like merino, but with this Tour de Fleece, I did a lot of BFL and Corriedale, which were some of my favorites, as well as regular wool, but that one just didn't feel like as amazing to me. And of course, I finished the last one. I don't want to necessarily show my label for my brand yet, because it is really exciting and like I worked really hard on it, and so I'm going to keep all of that a secret for now. So, you know, maybe reveal in the future, but yeah, this was the last one that I did, the red, and so these are both going to be sent out. These were Tour de Fleece objects. I also, during the time that I had done Tour de Fleece, was given a braid by my patron, and finished that one as well. I don't know if I showed it in my last video, but yeah, just from then until now, that was what we worked on. I wrote it down in my podcast notes, so if it was already said in the last video, I'm sorry for repeating it, but as far as like actual finished objects, that's literally all I have, because we've been doing a whole bunch of other stuff. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about in regards to my works in progress is going to be a test knit that I'm working on for Mipi the Label. If you're not aware, Mipi the Label is run by a very, very talented designer named Famke. I am absolutely in love with all her work, and this is, I think, my 3rd time test knitting for her. I'm a big fan, and I'm really grateful that I'm allowed to be a part of her like designing process, because it just feels like being a part of greatness. Like, I really enjoy working with her. She's very professional. She has great designs, and this one is no exception. So this is similar to the Bloom Bauble pullover, but it is a cardigan version of this, and I was really, really excited to work on it because I want something like to wear that is basic but a little bit textured. And the last one that I did from her, which was the Cecilia check lace pullover, was exactly that. It was a regular pullover, kind of cropped, boxy, casual sweatshirt, but it had some really nice ruffly textury details. And it just ended up being a really useful piece in my closet. And of course, I like her patterns. I like working with her for her testing period. She's very like generous with her time and her patience, and she's great with responsiveness, and she has a really, really beautiful pattern. I mean, her patterns are top tier in terms of how well they are written, how there are graphics. It's just like visually such a treat to work with, and it makes petite knit patterns look like garbage, like honestly. So yeah, I always like a chance to knit her stuff for free. So offered myself up for test knitting and was excited to work on this cardigan. I had clarified with her if I was able to make an alteration to the neckline and to remove the baubles on the actual sweaters themselves, because I'm not a huge fan of baubles. And she had posted on her stories a version of this with a picot neck band, and I really liked it, and so I was hoping that I could do that as well for mine, and she said yes. And then she approved me for test knit when the test knit call was out, and I swatched immediately. I ended up swatching with one of my own yarns. So this is a colorway that I'm realizing that the light might be washing us out a little bit, which is a bummer. So I can't really tell in the viewfinder if this is an accurate color or not. This is a very Monet inspired piece from my collection. It's called Diaphanous, and it is a very, very pale porcelain blue, like a whisper of porcelain blue, almost like a hydrangea inspired blue, lilacs, periwinkles, and then a hint of a bright chartreusey green. So absolutely color of my dreams. I love her so much. I was intending on finishing the entire sweater in this colorway. I actually dyed double of this colorway because I assumed I would be using one sweater quantity for myself. And I was assuming that I would hit gauge because it was the one that it was supposed to be. And when I had swatched for the actual pattern, I realized that I came up with something that was just a little bit too busy for what I was doing. Hopefully we can take a look here and see. Yeah, hopefully we can see here that like it's just a little bit too busy, and pardon my hands, but it's a little bit just too busy for the thing that we're working with. I mean, this color is gorgeous. I have no words. It's been exactly what I wanted, and then some. It's everything that I wanted, and then some. I really didn't even want to sell it. But yeah, as much as I love the yarn, and I think the yarn is gorgeous and pretty, I don't think it does service to the actual pattern itself. So I ended up re-swatching with two other colors one other color, two different bases that I ended up working with, and this one is called Porcelain Rose, and it's my perfect, cool toned, almost lilac, baby pink, very dimensional. Ultimately it's a tonal, right? And I ended up with this beauty. So she is working out just fine. I'm working on this back piece here. You can see that the tonal, especially when held double. So I'm holding one of my fingering weight yarns and then one of my fluffy fingering weight yarns together for a DK worsted. I mean, I think it's closer to a worsted weight gauge, but I honestly haven't really measured. But that's that, and it's looking a lot more readable. And I haven't blocked this yet, but yeah, so that's this. Again, I'm gonna have to go back and post to see how the color grading works in terms of, what's going on in, camera land, because I find that pastel colors are really hard to photograph. Colors in general are hard to photograph, and I'm doing a lot of pastels, which are impossible to photograph. And I never really thought that much about it, because when you look at stuff online, it's all so pretty. And this is not to say that things photograph ugly, it's just that they don't necessarily photograph the way that I think they should be represented. And iPhones are notorious for not getting pinks correct, and it's not like I think the thing is ugly, it's not what I see, and it's frustrating. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of color correction to show it, but it should be on me a very, very pale icy pink with some hints that are a little grayish, a little lilac, and a little bit more rosy. I love this color. I actually was thinking of a specific content creator when I was making it because I'm very inspired by her preference for this exact shade of color as well. I did not make double of that. So that was actually a batch that was supposed to go straight to inventory, and then I ended up pilfering it because I couldn't, you know, move forward with this. It was just a little, like, there was no way I was gonna make this work. It was just way too busy. And I will reserve this for something else, or, you know, it might get purchased, you know, in retail. But yeah, I am doing this. It is a test knit with 4mm needles. I'm making a size 2, and yeah, nothing else to say besides maybe the yarn experience I will mention. So this is 2 yarns held together. One is just a 100% wool, and the other one is a cotton alpaca merino blend. That's my fluff, and I actually really, really love that base. It is far superior to me than a sylph mohair, but not quite as precious and expensive as a alpaca silk, because there is no silk content in this. That makes this a lot easier to purchase. Like, it's easier on the wallet, and it doesn't have quite as disruptive a core. Like, it matches a lot more easily. So 38% baby alpaca, 25% merino, 37% Pima cotton. You get 437 yards per 100 grams. I think that's honestly really, really great. Then the fingering is really similar. I came up with really cute names for my yarn bases. So this is called Sylph. Sylph is my fluffy yarn. This is the one that has no silk in it. I chose the word sylph because it is an air elemental, and I wanted it to, like, say airy, fluffy, breezy, but without, you know, I wanted it to have like a witchcraft theme throughout, and you will see all of that later. And then my fingering weight yarn is called Charm, and it is just a 100% wool-based yarn. Nothing too crazy about it. It is, I think, technically considered a fine yarn in terms of the micron count, but it is really nice and woolly. It's a woolly wool. I actually don't do superwash yarns. It was a line that I wanted to draw in the sand fairly early on because I don't particularly like superwash yarn, so I didn't feel like it would be authentic for me to dye and sell superwash yarn, even though it's like really common. It's just going to be a line in the sand that I draw, and unless people are chomping at the bit at the store being like, please have her dye, you know, superwash yarn or whatever, I think I'm okay with that decision, just because I love the qualities of woolly wool, and it's just such a pleasure to work with. So that has been lovely and wonderful. I cannot wait to see a bigger piece of that. It will be, you know, amazing, I'm sure. Okay, the next thing I have is the Lakes Pullover by Ozetta. Now, if you have been following this, I casted this on, you know, like, I don't even think anyone has even seen this on my YouTube channel because it's a new cast on, but it's almost done, actually. I am doing this with helical knitting, and yes, all of these are going to be samples for myself and also for the store, so that you can see all the bases and touch all the bases and everything. So my problem with this is that I'm helical knitting, which means I'm switching my yarn ball every other row, or actually in my case, I'm doing it every 2 rows because I wanted a little bit of a stronger stripy effect. Apologies for the lighting. It's just going to be atmospheric and moody. But yeah, because I wanted the actual striping effect, I ended up having so many ends to cut, and it has to do with the saddle shoulder construction. So if you're not aware, the Lakes line is like 2 saddles that end up being your swatch, and then you pick up, I think, the back, and then you pick up the front, and then you know, join in the round, and then you knit all the way down. When you do that with German short rows and 2 balls of yarn and twice the ends, you end up with something like 30 ends to cut before you can join under the armpit, and it is a absolute nightmare. This is the sweater I am making my partner. It is the first huge full-size thing that I'm making him. It's not the first thing I'm making him by any means, because he's received a whole bunch of stuff before. He is extremely knit-worthy. Can't think of another person besides like my mom who would be willing to take care of knitting. I mean, it's hard to find the right kinds of recipients for your knitting. I don't think it's not lost on me. I know that we as knitters love to knit, and we love to gift our knitting for people in our lives that we love. But ultimately, it is a hobby that we enjoy doing. And so I don't necessarily think it's fair to ask other people to appreciate your hobby and to like take the care with your hobby the way that you would. Like, it's one thing if I want to hand wash my hand knit socks. I'm not going to expect, you know, my husband to hand wash his socks necessarily. And to call people ungrateful for that kind of thing, I don't know. To me, it's just like, who knows whether or not they have the bandwidth to do that. So, you know, I just happen to be lucky that my love language and, you know, his recipient receiving love language ends up being the same. And so I'm happy to do this, right? I'm happy to have it be actually a garment that I've really wanted to knit for a while, combined with a yarn sample that I needed to like have out as a garment and to, you know, make it as like a gift. So I ended up doing 3 birds with 1 stone. This is my worsted base, which is called Hearth. It is a really, really nice, smooth merino yarn. And when I say smooth, I don't mean like soft. I mean, it's definitely really soft because it's merino and it's a well-loved base. But what I mean by that, what I mean by smooth is I mean the actual twist of the yarn is a higher twist than usual. So it's like physically round. It's round. It would be great for cables. And in my case, I like it because it creates a really flat texture. And it's almost like the way sock yarn is plied, where it's super, super strong. So it should be quite resistant to pilling. That is the goal. My intention for this was for it to be kind of an off black. So hopefully you can see that effect in the sun. Like the stripes are obvious, but they're not super bright. It's a greenish, navy-ish, off black charcoal color. In this sunlight, it's definitely reading a little bit more like olive because the warm light is hitting us right now. Like the sunset is like orange right now. But in real life, you can't really tell what color it is besides the fact that it's really, really murky and it's really dark. And there's like some suggestion of stripes. Some bits are darker than other bits. I think that's really cute. I alternated colors for everything except for the collar. And when I do the cuffs, I'm going to do that in a single color as well, instead of carrying the stripes all the way through. I am currently picking up on sleeves and doing the shoulder cap with the German short row shaping for that. And it's fine. I don't really have any thoughts about it at this point. I have put the bottom on some stitch saving cord because I want to finish the sleeves and the neckline first before finishing the body, just to make sure that everything is the right length and all. But yeah, overall, it's been a pleasure to knit. I wanted something to just do in the round, actually because of a different sweater that I started knitting. And it was like causing havoc on my fingers. So I wanted to like kill 2 birds with 1 stone, make a product sample, and also, you know, like have something a little bit easier in the round to work on. I will say though, working on something for my very, very tall man has not been easy on the morale, because I'm 5 feet tall and he is over 6 feet tall. And so like when I am done with the body, it's like so soon, like the amount of body that I need to knit after joining under the armpits is like so little compared to the amount of body that I need to knit for him. And I'm also lucky because he's mostly leg. I mean, if he had more normal proportions where it's like, you know, your torso and your leg are more even, I would be in a shitload of trouble, but ended up being okay. I am quite pleased with this nonetheless. We'll see, you know, hopefully by the next episode we will be done with this sweater, but then again, I'm not sure, just because again, I will be traveling and I'll be out of the country, so who knows. But anyway, for now, that's what I have. Next cast on I have is the Finest Kind. Now this is a super, super exciting one because I am knitting this out of possum yarn. So I ended up going to a little yarn shop that I have never been to before, and it was just in an area that wasn't super familiar to me. I had gone berry picking and wanted to go somewhere local, and this place just had the most amazing selection of yarn, including this possum yarn that I had heard of. I mean, I've heard of possum yarn, but I've never really felt it before, and I've known that it was quite a luxurious, I'm gonna scoot into the sun, I have known that it is quite a luxurious pick. So I found this Circus Tonic Handmade Australia merino possum woolen spun yarn, and this is amazing. It's 80% non-superwash merino, 20% New Zealand possum fur. It is 400 meters and or 437 yards per 100 grams. That does squarely put it at a fingering weight grist. And this is in the color Sagebrush. Again, not sure how realistic this is. I think that's about right. It is a gorgeous grayish green, bluey green, grayish green. Absolutely amazing. I bought this for $40 a ball. And I said to my boyfriend, this is going to be the thing that I make you. And you have expensive ass taste, because he was like, oh, this is really soft, this is really nice, maybe this is the one. The reason why we ended up going with this is because this is his exact eye color. I have been wanting to like look for a yarn that is that color for a really long time, and it's not been super easy to find this exact shade of like greeny blue or bluey green that has just exactly the right level of warmth, the right level of depth and chroma and everything. Like the color match on this is genuinely like surreal. Obviously, there's no way to color pick like one color out of an eyeball, and especially with him, he has like heterochromia like within the eye, so there's a lot of different colors going on there. But in terms of like a general big picture view, this is really, really close to it, and I was absolutely willing to pay the cost. Luckily, it was subsidized, so it wasn't necessarily like I had paid for the whole thing. I'm paying with my labor, okay? But it also has this really beautiful possum halo. So possums, I guess, are invasive to New Zealand as a pest, and so I think this is a byproduct of that pest handling industry, which is fascinating. I knew that from the get-go. I did not know, however, that the halo was going to be a really cute, warmish brown color. I mean, it's really hard to capture on camera, and it's not really even something that you can see on camera, like in this lighting. I'm not really going to be able to feel it or see it, but it is kind of a heathery, grayish base with little guard hairs that look, I don't know, the best I can describe it is that they look brown instead of like silk or whatever that's kind of like a clearish color. This is notably, obviously, like a brownish halo. It's spectacular. The texture is amazing. I mean, I had no clue that possum would be so soft and luxurious. It feels like absolutely no prickle. You know, and I think there's a quality of possum that makes this fiber extremely lightweight, which allows you to get a really generous grist, so it's technically fingering weight. For that reason, I actually bought another yarn to supplement with this. Now that I'm halfway through my project, I can see that this actually would work really well as a heavy sport light DK. And, you know, had I had more experience prior, I would have like not purchased what I did. But for that price, it's actually really, really good. Given that I purchased also Le Petit lambswool by biches, it's not actually a great price anymore. So this is the Le Petit lambswool in the color soft green. Also a great color match. I mean, not exactly one for one a great color match, but very, very, very close, and nonetheless still exactly what I was looking for. I needed to hit an Aran weight gauge, and I looked at this and I figured there's no way this is a fingering weight yarn. So I figured maybe it would be like a sport or maybe a light DK, so then I chose a light fingering to hold double with it to knit Alicia Plummer's finest kind sweater. Finally, we were ready to talk about the sweater. Here it is. It's a bottom up, I think raglan sweater. No, don't quote me on that. I don't remember which one it is, but ultimately it's bottom up. I think it's fine just because, you know, when you're working with a straight torso, there's a little bit less worrying for the boob situation. But it is working up in seed stitch all the way up. It's a lot of seed stitch, and I am not too keen on it in terms of like being really happy about the knitting process. It's ultimately just knit one, purl one for a million miles, and that's not particularly fun. But I will say the yarn itself is making the process so buttery smooth and wonderful. But it was causing me hand pain, which is why I ended up switching over to the other project and basically finishing the entire lakes. The lakes was supposed to be a, what's the word? Like just reprieve, and it ended up being the thing that I, you know, focused on because it was just so much easier to get through. But this, I think, is going to be a more impactful knit when it's done because the yarn is so special and the feeling is so special. It's knit on 5mm needles. If I didn't say that already, I am knitting a size large, and I would say this project is probably what you would call a light dusty green overall. I'm really happy with it. Again, this yarn combination is like the yarn combination from heaven. I would immediately purchase more of this yarn if I didn't spend literally all of my life savings on raw yarn just now. So I kind of am going to knit with my own yarn if it doesn't sell. Like, I don't know how it's going to do. Like, I like what I've chose. It is notably not $40 a ball yarn. I don't know how much it costs them to produce this yarn, but this possum, like, let's just say that's not what I'm buying. This possum is like extremely fancy, and it comes from Australia, so I think, you know, it's going to be expensive. But I did look online to see if other retailers had more of this stuff because I was so enamored with it that I almost immediately was like, okay, what am I going to get next? You know, like, I didn't do it, thank God, but I looked into it, and it's more expensive everywhere else. So I ended up, I guess, getting a good deal for it because, you know, now we're looking at this and it's like, okay, like $120 you could get a sweater, a men's sweater out of it, you know, for other retailers that are working on this. I don't think they actually are able to get it at that cost because it seems like this company or the store that I bought it at didn't seem to raise their prices at all over time. So I'm happy about that, but I just know that, you know, with time, it's probably going to actually be more expensive because it seems like other retailers have already raised their prices quite a bit. Okay, and then the last thing, I guess not the last thing. Okay, two more things. One is the Maggie cardigan. Let me go grab that, actually. It's not super exciting, and I'm gonna keep talking. So hold on, I'll be right back. My microphone is attached to me, so thank goodness for that. Maggie cardigan, I'm thinking of over dyeing this because, again, I've been having a very good time with the over dyeing. I don't remember the last point at which we had chatted about this. I know I had mentioned that this is a steeked cardigan. I'm modifying it in a couple different ways, but we are working on the body ribbing at this point. So whole cardigan is done, you know, sleeves are done, both sleeves are done, woohoo, and the body is done, except for we are working on finishing up that ribbing at the bottom. At this point, we're working back and forth on the hem, but I think I need to rip it out because the hem's flipping up. And I did some research, and it sounds like hems flip up when they are either not long enough to hold their own weight, or when they are not skinny enough to cinch in the piece substantially enough. I've already gone down more than 2 needle sizes, so I knit the body in a 375 millimeter, and I think this is a 2.5. Oh no, it's a 3.25. So I've gone down 0.5 millimeters. I guess I need to go down to a 3 millimeter, but I don't think I have a 3 millimeter, which is why I think I went down to this one. So anyway, I might rip it out and try again, but like that's just like too much brain power for me right now. I'm not in the mood to do that. But the plan is after I finish everything else that's on my needles right now, I mean, again, no rush on this. It is my perfect cardigan. This is a set-in sleeve cardigan, and I love the fit of the shoulder. It is my absolute dream shoulder. This like set-in sleeve is absolutely perfect. I'm also considering purchasing this yarn base to sell more of in my shop. I did dye one batch of it, but I haven't used it yet. So, you know, it's one of those things where like you can't keep dyeing stuff because it's like, how much could you possibly use, girl? Anyway, I love this base. It's an amazing yarn. It's knit in Knitting for Olive merino, and then this wonderful alpaca base. It's like 40% alpaca, 30% merino, and then like 8% linen or something. I don't remember the numbers exactly, but it's a linen merino alpaca blend. There's just a teeny tiny bit of linen, and I think it's for texture, but I don't know, like, I don't know, something about this just feels really good, and the neps are obviously like polyester or something, but yeah, I have really enjoyed knitting on this. I will really enjoy finishing it because then I can finally change it to a color that I like. I don't hate this creamy yellowy color. In fact, I went out of my way to purchase more of the elderflower from the Knitting for Olive merino, but it is, I guess, something that I just don't necessarily see myself wearing that often, even though it is cute. Like, I don't think it looks bad on me. I don't think it's particularly jarring or, you know, like, it doesn't sit apart from me too much, but I also don't find it to be a color that I'm particularly excited to wear and excited to incorporate into my outfits. So I'm thinking of over dyeing this. Originally I thought pink, and now I'm knitting another pink cardigan. Then I thought maybe lilac, because I don't actually have a lilac cardigan. Now I'm thinking I would like to do a smoky purple. I think that would be more interesting, kind of like a, yeah, just a darker, deeper version of lilac. With a little bit more depth and smokiness, but it has these neon neps, so I don't know how, what's the word, like, I don't know how much that would coordinate. I definitely don't want to do black because I think that would look a little too much like a, I don't know, like a vintage bowling alley vibe. But if you have any ideas for over dyeing, let me know. And if my supposition about my ribbing not being tight enough, also please confirm or deny that that's true, because that's what I read online. And I mean, usually these knitting forums do not lie, but I just want to know if I actually have to rip it out, because if I do, it's going to sit on the needles for that much longer because I'm currently knitting on something else with those skinny needles. So it's going to be a whole thing. Okay, last thing that I am working on, which I also might rip out because I don't know if I actually like this result. I am going to be attending a formal event, and for said formal event, I would like to have a nice, pretty, flowy mohair thing, right? And everyone is making the mohair poncho, and I like the mohair, you know, summer poncho thing or whatever that's going around. And I found my perfect version of this free pattern. It's a rectangle. It's a rectangle that you seam up in a particular way. So for me, what I'm paying for is the knowledge of like where I should be seaming said rectangle. But there's really, I mean, nothing to be garnered. It's a rectangle. I'm knitting this with some stash yarn and some new yarn. So it's a combination of stuff. It is 2 strands of my machine knitting merino cone wool. I was gifted this last year or this year, I can't remember. And I have a ton of it sitting, and it's like one of my favorite shades of icy blue, and it's gorgeous. It's 100% merino, if not cashmere. It might be cashmere. You know, it was really hard to identify because at the time there were no labels on anything. There is a strand of Ito Kinging, which is a viscose and polyester blend, but it has these really beautiful little sparkly neps in it, almost like if you were to create a nep for a piece of tweed, or, you know, like this Donegal nep thing here that I have, you know, but instead of it being like a fun sprinkle of a different color, it's just a fun sprinkle of silver. And it's added this really beautiful dimensional texture to this. And then I have a strand of kid silk lace from, it's a store brand, like meaning the local yarn store also dyes their own local yarn. And they have like an in-store hand dyer. And that one's just, I think, silver. I think it's just straight up silver. It's very luminous because of the silk content. And I really enjoy this. I enjoy the texture. I enjoy the experience. It is going to be exactly perfect for what I want, which is a blue silky poncho that has this drape and this sheen, because the sheen is absolutely what I'm looking for. However, the nightmare is in knitting this. This is knit on 8mm needles. Now I started knitting them on 8mm Chaogus. I have switched over to 8mm Lantern Moons. There is no way for me to knit this without going absolutely crazy, because what happens is you're knitting this super skinny yarn on a really, really chunky diameter, and then as you push it, it almost like doesn't want to stay that size, or like tightens, or I mean, I don't really know how to verbalize the process of this besides that it feels very laborious. Like, I don't like the experience of knitting really skinny yarn on really fat needles. I don't mind knitting fat yarn on fat needles. I don't mind knitting skinny yarn on skinny needles, but now I'm learning that there's something about this jump from this connector to the main body, and that drastic difference ends up making pulling the yarn onto the needle very, very cumbersome. And that's good to know, because there's a lot of tops, like the sheer mohair blousey tops, like the Cloud, or the Celine, or the My Favorite Things blouse top, or the Lotus top. Like, there's so many versions of that, like Lucy mohair. You know, I think Rose Knitwear has like an Aura top. Right? There's so many versions of this like Lucy drapey beautiful thing that I actually had on my list of things to knit for years. And I'm realizing that, you know, if they all require me to use a thick ass needle with skinny ass yarn like this, and I hate it that much, maybe it's not worth me doing, because I'm actually considering frogging this. It sucks because I mean, not that I went through my yarn, I didn't, there's a lot of yarn left, but I guess like I'm having this sunk cost fallacy thing where it's like I feel like I spent a bunch of agonizing hours doing this already, and I don't want to take everything out. And notoriously, mohair is not easy to frog. So I'm just, I'm at an impasse. I'm dreading this. I'm going to need it like soon. So I need to make a decision relatively quickly as to what I'm going to do with this thing. Because if I don't decide now, it's going to be too late, and I'm not going to have the garment for the thing that I need. I'm doing this because AKA Norma Knits said that she made herself a, you know, summer poncho with a Barocco linen yarn, and she was like, it was perfect for the formal event that I was going to, and it like did exactly what I wanted it to do, and it looks so classy, and like all the images that I've been seeing of this, and like the ethereal white or the, you know, silvery colors look great in wedding venues or whatever, like graduations. Like, people really have been wearing the shit out of these flowy little mohair things. I like the idea. I like the execution. I don't like the process of knitting it. And if I'm knitting something back and forth flat, it needs to at least not want me to pull my hairs out one by one. So if you have a recommendation for me, please leave it down below. I would like it to be like nice, drapey, loose. You know, ideally for something that's like heavy fingering, right? Like I'm dealing with, at this point, probably closer to a sport weight. And I don't want it to be lace in the sense that I don't want it to be like a long repeat that I have to read with a chart. I wouldn't mind something if the repeat was really small and it was like, you know, 4 stitches all the way across, but I want something easy. I want something not knit on huge needles. So I think the transition between that little to big, you know, little connector to the big needle thing is like what's tripping me up and making me just really not enjoy this process, and like squeezing it like this. The wood needles make it slow, and then the metal needles are too slippery. Like, everything about it is just like, I hate this process. I'm working on it. The yarn is lovely. I want to mention again, this is a very luxurious product. It's like silk, it's mohair, it's cashmere. Like, if I were to calculate the cost of this as a finished object in terms of price and its objective value, it would actually be quite high because it's multiple fancy balls of yarn. It's like 4 balls of fancy yarn put together into an object, and I somehow hate knitting with it, which is crazy because it's like, this is a nice product. I should really enjoy making it. Okay, that is actually it. The last thing that I want to say is I'm also taking recommendations for a sample project. These are the yarns that I have for my, what is this called? The Bloom Bauble sweater. And so if I didn't show that earlier, then this is it. It's really cute. It's like that pastel-y pink, almost like a milky strawberry milk color. But I also made a store exclusive colorway in collaboration with the store owner. We had like written up a whole outline, and I gave her some ideas, and anyway, we hand-in-hand collaborated to create a colorway that will be exclusive to the location, and I will never reproduce it again, but I did want to give you guys a sneak peek. It is the only yarn that I am doing on a sparkle base, which is really exciting. So we have a sparkle wool base. This is 80% wool, 20% silk. And then, or maybe it's like 70% wool, 20% silk, and then 10% shine, but it's a wool silk blend, absolutely gorgeous. And then we have the alpaca silk, which is a alpaca silk blend. And the colors are really, really cute. It is soft baby candy, like pink, greens, purples, blues, and of course the shiny, sparkly Stellina base really brings the whole thing together. It's exactly what she had asked for. I think we ended up on Soft Paws for the name. It's a cat cafe, actually, the store. It's a cat cafe and yarn store combo. So really excited about this. This is the first time I'm working with this particularly luxury combination of fibers. I've never worked with this particular base before, just because it is so much more money. Like, that amount of silk is quite prohibitive to produce at a larger scale. For me, at least, I don't know, maybe y'all would like this. If you are interested in, like, you know, heavier silk bases, let me know. But like, for me, I usually just use wool, so that's what I opted for my regular stuff. But this is quite the treat, and we each have one set as a sample for ourselves, and so this will be store inventory, but my own inventory I have, and I'm really excited about it. So I have one wound up already. Again, I don't know if you can see any of this, like, I don't know if the lights are blowing it out, but it is a very, very cute pastel with short color changes. I mean, not even color changes, but just like little bursts of color. So that's the fluffy alpaca silk. This is the wool and silk, and it just is so cute and so adorable. I'm thinking of doing a shawl, and I was thinking of doing a shawl with kind of different textures. So like, one section of the shawl would be, you know, the solid texture, and then one section of the shawl would be the very lightweight kind of lacy texture. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think if you have any recommendations for something that's just 150 grams, because I have 100 grams of this, and this is sold in a 50 gram skein, and I could hold them together and do like a Sophie scarf, of course. You know, I have an old Sophie that wasn't exactly colors that I loved, so I would 100% be totally okay with replacing my old Sophie with a new Sophie. Like, that's totally fine and totally cool, and you know, that idea is not, you know, wasted at all. I totally love a tiny little scarf. I was just wondering if anyone else had some other ideas, because, you know, it's always fun to crowdsource, or at least I find it fun to crowdsource, because everyone here is, you know, slightly into different things. And so as much time as I spend on Ravelry just like trawling around looking at stuff, I do always want to ask if anyone has recommendations. But yeah, this sparkle is so amazing in twilight, just low lighting in general, because it has this slightly holographic sheen. So on a lot of sparkly things, so my mohair thing, which I flung somewhere unceremoniously, it's just silver. This is like beautiful, and it's sparkly because it has that silk, and it's a metallic thread or whatever, but I'm looking at it and it's pretty clearly just silver sparkle. This one has, dare I say, like iridescent sparkle, which is not something that I expected. I mean, it's not very clear when I was ordering wholesale that it was going to be like an opalescent shine. I thought it was just gonna be silver, and for this one, make no mistake, it is silver. But for my alpaca silk, it is quite literally like, it has I don't know, what do they call it for gems, like fire, where, you know, it's flashing like different colors. It's flashing blue, green, yellow, definitely orange. I mean, it looks like a fancy chrome nail polish. I mean, it's amazing. So I want to do it justice. It's incredibly soft. This one of course has the silk in it to be extra bougie. So yeah, I want to do her justice. And she looks really, I mean, I honestly don't even want to move it because right now they look really cute stacked on top of my little cake like this, or my yarn spinner. Like, that is so precious. I mean, look at that. The last thing I wanted to talk about is advent calendar stuff. In my Discord group with my very cool yarny friends, I had offered advent calendars, and I said if anyone was interested in an advent calendar, let me know, because they're usually really pricey, and some of that priciness can make it difficult to, you know, make things happen. And that's the reason why I have never done an advent calendar, because I just could never justify spending that much money on one. You know, I couldn't figure it out myself. However, when I had mentioned, hey, do you guys, you know, would you be interested if I made us some yarn advent calendars? I mean, obviously, you know, I'd have to be paid for it, but, you know, on a small enough scale, I think it could be fun. And anyway, this is to say that the advent calendar is happening for Samhain. So, you know, as a practicing witch, for me, it's Samhain and not Halloween, but we can call this a Halloween advent calendar. I am very, very, very excited for it. I don't think there will be like that much room for me to do that many. I also don't think there's going to be that much demand for me to do that many, but I don't know how many of you guys are also interested in advent calendars but find them just a little bit expensive. That being said, after producing all of this yarn and pricing it out and also getting into retail and everything like that, I can see why it's not priced. There's a reason why indie dyers like literally have to price things the way they do, or they literally don't make, I mean, it ends up costing you more money than not to run these things. And like, we know that it's hard out there. So I was figuring that for me right now, as it is, if I'm only dyeing 4 batches of these, it's actually going to, again, like, it's fun in a creative sense, but it will actually be like a shit ton more work than really is worth. Like, it would actually be better and easier if I dyed more individual skeins at once. So that way I could do like batches of colors. So I'm actually opening up the option. So if anyone is interested in a Samhain themed advent calendar that is going out for Samhain, it's a countdown for Halloween, let me know. I actually am going to put an interest form down in the description box. This is not going to be like an ordering thing or anything like that. You will not be ordering from me, but it's just an interest tickler. I just want to know if there is any interest in an advent release. I personally am very enthusiastic about it. If you want to know the name of the collection, spoilers ahead. If you don't want to know it, then I don't know, mute me for a little bit. But it will be called the Witch's Cabinet of Curiosities. And I'm really excited about that because, you know, I have a whole color scheme, I have a whole idea in mind, and it's going to be coordinated, but not a complete exact gradient. So if that's up your alley and you are interested, let me know. I will have it on a pay what you can sliding scale, just again for production reasons. Yeah, like the whole point of me offering the advent calendar was like, hey, I've never done this because it was just too expensive for me personally, and I didn't feel like you got as much yarn as I wanted out of it. But now that I am producing it, I can kind of adjust those dials, and so I want to be able to make it an option to have a 500 gram advent calendar with a little bit of a lower barrier to entry, so to speak. It will be coordinating. I think it would also be fun to create a project with the stuff after the fact, I think. And yeah, we can do all of that as a coordinated effort if you know, we are interested. But anyway, the form is down below. I'm not really doing a formal, like, it's only going to be open from like this day to that day. I am collecting interest until further notice. I will be producing the yarn for my advent calendar in a couple weeks. So at most we have like 3 weeks to collect interest on this. And at a certain point, once I actually announce it or whatever, it's going to be a done deal because I have to order the inventory, then I have to make it all in batches. I'm thinking in general, like I'm going to do 25 of them. So 20 of you guys can order this if you want. But probably not. Yeah, I'm not going to be doing like 200 orders, you know. So if you have any interest in an advent calendar, please let me know by clicking down below in the little survey form, just so I have a pulse check. If not, I will still come back and show you guys the advent calendar after the fact because, you know, it'll be exciting and you'll see it on people's channels, hopefully. I don't know, it'll be exciting. I think it'll be a really big undertaking, but seeing how meticulously I have already planned for it in advance of even the regular like stock release stuff, I'm actually feeling fairly strong about it. And they are so cute. The freaking minis are dang adorable. And this is, you know, 1 pack of yarn per person. It's like a very significant hefty pack of yarn. The only thing I will say is I've been seeing a lot of the yarn advent calendars on YouTube and Instagram. And these indie dyers have incredible custom packaging. I'm telling you now, like, we don't have the money for that. That's why your yarn advent calendars are costing $250, $300. It's because they have like custom boxes and holographic labels and goodie bags and all the extra stuff. I'm telling you now, it's not gonna be that, okay? I'm sorry, it's gonna be minis. I've dyed them, I've put labels on them. They're gonna be wrapped in like tissue paper probably. And you're gonna get just the yarn, not much overhead. It is what it is. If you're interested, follow the link down below. And it would give me a good place to jump off. Okay, that is it for today. I am finally, like, my voice is shot. I cannot keep going. That is everything. If you have any feedback, let me know. Bust start knit along, unfortunately, has not happened yet. I just have too much stuff. I mean, evidently, I have my fingers in too many pies. I have too many whips to work on. I'm traveling. Did I wish that maybe I didn't say, let's do a knit along and then immediately leave to do a million other things? Yes, I'm very, very, very sorry. If you were waiting on me to do a busty knit along, which I don't think there were that many who were, you know, please don't let me hold you back. I will come back for bust start as soon as I possibly can. I know I had said that this was a summer of bust start knitting, and yeah, just like immediately ended up doing a million other things and started knitting sweaters again. But, you know, as it is, this is a creative hobby and should not be causing us that much existential dread and threat. So I do humbly apologize. I hope you forgive me for leaving us high and dry on the bust start train, but it is still going to happen eventually, I have no doubt. Yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It is way late. The sun is definitely set, and I think it's time for my voice to take a rest. I have never talked so much in my life. I did a work presentation today and talked for 3 hours straight. I was in like a handful of meetings, and so I think we've now reached like 5 hours of nonstop talking. And my throat is shot. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. It means the world that you guys are here with me, hanging out, you know, just doing our artsy thing, you know, taking care of ourselves, taking care of each other. You know, feel free to tell me what you're working on now. Or, you know, like the cutest, fluffiest thing that you saw recently. I love reading all your like little stories and comments, so much appreciated. Thanks for hanging out again, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.